I'm Dr. Revels, and you're listening to the REVELSations podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know that you're listening. Since we're all family and friends here, you can call me Rev. The topic of today's short talk is projection protection. Projection protection. Let's get into some dictionary definitions like we like to do here on the REVELSations podcast so we are all on the same page. The definition of projection. To project is a noun, we call it a project, or a verb, and we say to project. Project in the verb form means to devise something in your mind and to plan, to figure, or estimate for the future. It is something that you think about. It's a plan, or you receive information and you think about that information and you begin to act on that information. That is to project. There is a psychological ideology behind projecting, and you can do this to feelings. And oftentimes people project their feelings. And that is when someone unconsciously attributes their thoughts, feelings, emotions, or behavior to another person. Someone does something, and you take your ideas that you have in your mind about what they did, and then you begin to define what they did based on not them, but actually based on you and what you think and you feel, and based on your biases and experiences. Okay, so then we have the definition of bias. Bias is a personal or sometimes unreasonable judgment. It is something that you have or you think based on your experiences, based on your prejudices, based on how life has been for you, and you are biased. So you are either for or against. You tend to lean towards something that you favor more than something or someone that you don't favor. And then finally, we have prejudice, and prejudice is an unfair and unreasonable opinion or feeling, especially when formed out of not enough thought or knowledge. Doesn't mean it doesn't have thought or knowledge, but not enough thought or knowledge. So how does this get to projection protection? Well, again, to project feelings is when someone unconsciously attributes their thoughts, feelings, behaviors onto another person. So we've all experienced it. We've walked in a room, be it at work, be it in the social settings, and we're like, hey, I'm having a good time, and we say something. And then the person that we say it to, they receive it in the way that we did not intend it to go. We meant it as a compliment. They have taken it as a slight. We've meant it as a fact. They've taken it as an insult. And they begin to project their anger. You meant this to hurt me, or you meant this to insult me. And it's like, no, I didn't. I did not. You're projecting those feelings back onto me. And we often say things like how it came off, how I heard it, and or how you came off. And it's like, no, it's not necessarily how I came off. It's how you interpret it. Because remember, to project is about your own thoughts that you devised in your mind. It's not how the person necessarily gave it. It's more about how you received it. And again, you have had this experience in your life, I'm quite sure, where you go and you speak to someone in a way that you think, man, I'm really going to compliment this person, or I'm going to say something good. And they take it the wrong way. And they begin to say things like, well, you think you're better than me, or you think you know more than me, or anything like that. And you're thinking, well, no, I never said anything of the sort. I never even thought anything of the sort. In that situation, that person is projecting their insecurities onto you. It's not that you have done anything or you have said anything to make yourself seem better than that person. It's oftentimes that that person actually thinks that you are better than them, and they're upset about it, and they're projecting in it. They're projecting it in a way to where they're accusing you of the feeling that they have. I was faced with a scenario a couple of weeks ago where someone I know asked me how to handle a situation. They were approached by someone that we mutually know, and that person said something to them that they didn't like. And my friend was, oh, I'm upset. I don't like the fact that they said this to me. I don't know how to approach it. How should I approach it? Well, I said, well, first thing you need to do is maybe stop projecting your thoughts, opinions, and feelings about what they said and how they meant it, right? You can interpret what they said for sure, but you shouldn't subscribe your feelings to what they said. You have to try to get to the root of their feelings. Why did they say it? Did they mean this to insult you? It may have insulted you, but did they mean it to insult you, or did they say it in a way to where you took it as an insult, even though they did not give it as an insult. That was not their intent. So the two people I know went and talked and they hashed it out. And I followed up later and said, hey, how did that conversation go with our mutual acquaintance? And they said, oh, it was good because I listened and I understood that this person did not mean it to be as nasty as I took it. That person began to be self-reflective and understood that they were projecting their insecurities, their thoughts onto how somebody else said it. So how do we fix this? What do we do? What is the protection from projection? Well, it's simple, but it's difficult because we all do this thing of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, the definition of that is when we have a tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmations of our own existing beliefs or theories, right? So somebody does something to us, we don't like it, we interpret it with our own bias and we begin to project it. And then we begin to say, see, they really don't like me. See, they really meant it as a negative thing. They meant it as a slight instead of a compliment. So we begin to look for things that confirms the bias that we had. And the bias that we have is oftentimes based on our projection, how we interpret the thing instead of how they intended to give it. So again, how do we protect ourselves from this? We first think, I should not subscribe my feelings to their actions. I should not subscribe my feelings to their words. If I have an awkward feeling about what they said, maybe I should talk to that person. And that's where things often crumble. How often do we talk to people? Not talk at people, talk to them. Have a conversation with people who we feel may have slighted us or we feel may have offended us. We seem to be in a society, in a world where we default to anger. We default to being upset. We have a deficit mindset about things. And I challenge us to change and think not negatively and think not to project and think not to prescribe our thoughts, opinions, and feelings, not to project our feelings onto other people's words. Talk to them. Ask them about it. Hey, you know what? Instead of saying it came off like this, maybe we should say things like, I took it as this. I trust you enough to know that you didn't mean it like that because I know your character. And if I know your character, you didn't mean to make it seem like you were better than me. You didn't mean to make it seem like you are here and I am there. But that's how I took it. I'll explain my thoughts and feelings. I'll give you an opportunity to explain your thoughts and feelings, and we can come to agreement. And oftentimes, I've been in those situations. Oftentimes, things work out for the better. The one person didn't mean it as an insult, even though the other person took it as an insult, and people can come together and have more peace and harmony. So it's all about communication. So we can protect ourselves from our own projections by not subscribing our thoughts, feelings, biases, and prejudice to someone else's words and someone else's actions. We need to ask them, what do their actions mean? What do their words mean? How are they trying to give it instead of only how we are receiving it? What do you think? Have you ever been in a situation where you need to talk to somebody and maybe didn't? Have you had those conversations? Drop a comment and let me know in the chat below. Thank you again for listening to the Revelations Podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. You can contact me directly at revelationspodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at the Revelations Podcast. I am because we are. Hallelujah, holla back. Peace.
Yeah, the Revelations now televised. A platform for you and I. An outlook with full heart and clear eyes. Now, these are just my thoughts. Truth on how I feel on these topics I reveal. Please know my toll, I always keep it real. Can't face the word if you can't face facts. For your time, just open up your mind. That's it, just live, think big, now take that. With God in me, this here was made by design. Yeah, the revelation will be televised. REVELSations.